There's an American philanthropist whose name is Greg Carr, who entered into a partnership with the Mozambican government and $100 million commitment to restore the park. But to restore the park, he understood that you first needed to restore the opportunities for people. You have to give them a reason not to deforest. You have to give them some economic diversification, livelihood. Yeah. And they decided on coffee as the engine to reforest Gorongosa Mountain. And it's been very successful. Now, I just, for those who don't understand coffee production, it takes 3 to 4 years for a coffee plant to become commercially viable. I can't understate the challenge of trying to convince people who don't know what coffee is, have never even tasted it, that they should replant all the trees they cut down, plant these little coffee seedlings, and wait 4 years for a crop that they don't understand. And I don't know how they did it, but they did it with enough people that they've really started to move it.
Hey friends, it's Lee Safar here with some exciting news. The introduction to regenerative coffee farming workshops are now available on demand in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. These workshops are designed to give you actionable insights into the future of coffee farming through regenerative agriculture. Whether you're a coffee producer, roaster, cafe owner, or just passionate about coffee sustainability. For coffee producers, the workshop is available for just $10, and for everyone else, it's $20, a small price to pay for knowledge that could transform your understanding of what it's going to take to grow coffee from now on. Led by our incredible professors Angela Barrero, Murilo Bettarello, Felipe Croce, Carlos Ordóñez, and João Araújo, the workshop is packed with practical knowledge and strategies to help coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry adapt to the challenges of climate change, rising costs, and market demands. If you're a business owner, this workshop is a great and affordable way to inform your employees about the challenges ahead while also supporting Map It Forward. This is also a great workshop to share with or gift to your coffee producers. Head to mapitforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the description to purchase the on-demand version and start your journey towards a more sustainable coffee future today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is the final episode of the final series that will air before our encore season starts next week. And as this goes to air, I'm going to be getting ready to go to Australia because I'm going to be spending a couple of weeks with my family, and I'm not taking my laptop with me. That's the goal anyway. So don't call me, don't email me, don't contact me. Do not disturb will be on by the time that this airs. But I am deeply privileged to have you guys, Bob and Michelle, on the podcast for the last episode. Again, 2024 has given me the gift of many new friends in coffee, and you two are amongst them. So I'm deeply privileged that we get to have this conversation for the last time for this year, which has been the best year for Map It Forward yet, and one of my best years, probably my best year ever in my life. So in this episode for this series, we're talking about Behind the Black Curtain. And when we were talking about this series, I wanted to end the year on a positive. Since we had that preliminary conversation, the sea market has been doing wild things and has done, history make yesterday, the day before yesterday, 347, wild things. There's the things that are happening in the future, the near future, that could push that up even further.
Yep.
So we are going to end this season on what does the next 5 years look like for the industry. And given what has happened with the sea market, I'm not sure that all of the next 5 years is going to be positive. But then I also say, but it depends which lens you're looking through. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be positive but painful. So tell me, from your perspective, as a brand that's growing rapidly while also participating in a responsible way in the supply chain and working with people whose future you want to help to blossom, how do you see the next 5 years for your business? And then we'll talk about how you see it for the industry.
No, for sure. So keep in mind, we're not engaged with the seed contract.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even watch it. We don't even care. That is not how we're paying for coffee through that theoretical supply demand world system. So, and what I want to tell you is, or whoever's listening, that although the price is up, nobody's buying coffee right now. Nobody.
Well, there's no coffee to buy anymore.
No, but even at that, they're not buying.
Yeah.
Now, you've also been told that in Brazil that they have coffee, they have plenty of coffee, but they're not selling. Okay. So
back to Milton Friedman, supply and demand.
So, right. So there's all this manipulation, but we're off that grid, right? But here's where I think the story lies in coffee, and certainly the way that we approach it, especially that coffee, particularly as a product, is a solution to climate change.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
It is an understory product, right? And I'm going to have Michelle share a story about Gorongosa, we're about ready to partner with, that demonstrates exactly that. But coffee can lead the way to a solution. Now, I do think here's the big haul: the consumer has to be educated. And the consumer has to be educated in a way that doesn't shame them, right? They just need the information because you can't unknow what you know, right? And that is the thread that we are trying to put through the eye hole of the needle right now, is to bring people the information that doesn't put shame on them, but gives them enough information where they can make the right choices to the right people. But coffee as a solution, I don't know if you'd pick that up, Dave.
Yeah. So we're really excited. We're in the final stages of formalizing a partnership with Gorongosa Products in Mozambique, Gorongosa National Park. Mozambique has all of the right conditions to grow coffee. And it is in a range of, like, it's, right next door to Zambia, where they grow coffee, not far from Zimbabwe, where they also grow coffee. But they never did, because they were a Portuguese colony, and the Portuguese had Brazil for that. So they didn't need Mozambique. Post independence, they, like many former colonies, they endured brutal civil war. It just brutal. And a lot of it centered in and around the area that is the Gorongosa National Park. As a consequence of that, they used to have, in Gorongosa, they had one of the greatest populations of all the big African animals you'd expect to find there, one of the biggest on the continent. And by the time the war was finally concluded in 2013, that population had dropped 95%.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Gorongosa Mountain, which is the largest driver of climate in that little region. We've talked about before how if you deforest, you change the microclimate so that the clouds, instead of stopping and picking up more humidity and giving you rain, just keep going. The Gorongosa Mountain was about half or a little more than that deforested. All the wood cut down for charcoal, for firewood, clear cutting. The economic landscape for the people was also grim. You're talking primarily subsistence farmers, no access to education, no access to healthcare. There's an American philanthropist whose name is Greg Carr, who entered into a partnership with the Mozambican government and a $100 million commitment to restore the park. But to restore the park, he understood that you first needed to restore the opportunities for people. You have to give them a reason not to deforest. You have to give them some economic diversification, livelihood. Yeah. And they decided on coffee as the engine to reforest Gorongosa Mountain. And it's been very successful. Now, I just, for those who don't understand coffee production, it takes 3 to 4 years for a coffee plant to become commercially viable. I can't understate the challenge of trying to convince people who don't know what coffee is, have never even tasted it, that they should replant all the trees they cut down, plant these little coffee seedlings, and wait 4 years for a crop that they don't understand. Like, and I don't know how they did it, but they did it with enough people that they've really started to move it. So they're just coming into coffee production. They're adding more small landholders all the time. They've been wildly successful at reforesting the Gorongosa Mountain, which has had a giant impact on the climate. The rain is back. The river is back. The river was drying out. That's the river that feeds the watershed where the hippos live, and that big, large wetland. And they've done a lot of great work with the animals as well. We had the opportunity to do a safari around the park last time we were there, and I stood out on that plain as the sun was going down, and in every direction that I could see, and as far as the eye could see, were animals.
Wow.
Wildebeest, water buffalo, all of them. I can't remember all of their names, unfortunately. Lots and lots of different kinds of impala, lions. It's really remarkable. And coffee is what's helping to do that, right? Coffee is making that possible. It's really remarkable, this product that we all love so much.
Yeah. So it can be a real reversal of climate change. It's a crop that's understoried. When you return the trees, great things happen, particularly if they're indigenous. The whole ecosystem rebirths itself. And there's still a viable hard currency crop to go along with it in areas that traditionally it'd be very difficult to grow anything else, right? So we're talking about mountainous regions. It's not where you grow tomatoes, say, or something like that. So I think coffee, because it's romantic, that we can get the consumer interested, help explain to them a little bit what we mean by these terms like regenerative farming and climate change and, all the terminology that we drop on a regular basis. And that too will spawn an interest more widely in agriculture, in understanding how we are interdependent as a species all over this world, how our atmosphere is just one. Atmospheres aren't nationalized, oceans aren't nationalized, all that kind of stuff. That we have an obligation to each other, and that obligation is real and is a basic human instinct, and that we don't need to reduce ourselves to the tribalism that comes very naturally to us, and that our tribe can just be one human race.
And again, we go back to we're not talking about broccoli. There's something different about the coffee industry than about other industries. And we can do this, folks. Like, we can come together. We need to start by learning about what this thing is and the seriousness of the situation that we're facing. And it's not, yes, listening to this podcast is a fantastic way to get insight into what you should be researching. But if you don't want to do the regenerative ag workshop, it's a 2-hour workshop. It's incredible information. The professors talk about like how intercropping and using biochar and agroforestry, how these things can actually be a way the carbon is sequestered out of the atmosphere. And that means that these coffee trees and the larger canopy trees that are grown around them, they pull carbon out of the air, which is exactly what we need to do to battle climate change, right? And get back to some kind of normalcy, which is completely not possible from the way that we're running the world now. But that's the hope, right? Is we grow coffee, we grow trees around it, and we stabilize the topsoil so that it can be a stable place for a natural ecosystem to exist. And when that happens, you get insects show up. You get foxes turn up to the farm. You get birds come to eat the fruit. You get fruit enough for the pickers and the rest of the farmers. And so now what you're doing is you're not just growing coffee. There is so much more that comes from this whole practice of regenerative ag, right? But you don't have to take the regenerative ag workshop that we're offering you to do that. Pick up your phone and have a conversation with ChatGPT and ask it the stupid questions. What is regenerative agriculture? Why is it so important in coffee? And do a trick that I have when there's something that I don't understand. Ask it the question. If you don't understand what its answer is, say to it, can you explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old? And it is fantastic. And I'm going to post a video. It should be up by the time this is on. But I'm going to post a video of me having a conversation with ChatGPT about, please explain what the C market is and its function in the coffee industry. And I asked it to explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And it uses lemonade stands as a way to do that. And it is fantastic to see how much easier it is to empower yourself in with today's technology. You have no excuses. Whether you like, this podcast is free for that reason, so that nobody can say in the coffee industry, nobody told me. There is no barrier to getting access to this podcast, but this is not the place to finish that. This is the place to start learning and going and having conversations and researching businesses like Biggby. And like, the one question actually I'd like to ask you guys that I haven't asked you yet about this is, when you say you need to educate the consumer, right? I can imagine that a lot of people are going to say, well, I've got to go and look up Biggby and figure out how they're doing that. Because a lot of people invest in the little cards that, you know, tell the customer exactly what's going on, and the customer doesn't give a fuck. Like, the customer just wants their cappuccino with 2 sugars and leave me the fuck alone. Yeah. So how do you educate the consumer?
Well, so, and the stuff you're talking about is all bullshit. That's just marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And there's just way too many people that use too much farm porn to accentuate their business, you know. And we are categorically against farm porn. But no, I mean, listen, like I said when we opened this series, is that most people think coffee comes from a roaster. So like, we just released something, we just put it on Facebook and LinkedIn, but it's a 13-part series that's called Behind the Coffee Curve, right?
Oh, boom.
Yeah, they're 2-minute segments. Just 2 minutes, right? So it doesn't take a lot of your time. And they're a little sardonic, right? They're almost humorous in their delivery. So it's not all this serious, the world's going to end kind of language. But like, one we just released really just explains the complexity of the coffee supply chain in 2 minutes, but in a fun way, right? And I think that we need to, it's our obligation to become creative. Like, we've got to meet the consumer where they are. Where they are is they don't have time for this shit. They got their own problems. They don't need to solve other people's problems. And we're not even asking them to. Okay. But they do. And I think they can benefit from understanding, and I've used this word before, the interdependency of this world. You know, we call the organization that does this part not Biggby Coffee, but we call it One Big Island in Space. And the reason that we choose that name is that we have this one Earth. It's this floating green ball in space. Earth is one big island in space, and that's it. You know, nobody's found anything out there other than us, right?
Well, Elon Musk isn't taking all of us with him, is he?
Well, all he's looking to do is create suburbs in space, right? He's not even looking for alternate life, right? So, we are interdependent on each other, right? We can't screw one part of the world expecting it not to impact our world eventually. And that eventually has arrived, right? Like, we can feel it through migration. We can feel it through changes in weather patterns. We can feel it in the oceans, right? So on and so forth. We can feel it.
Food insecurity, wildfires, proliferation of wildfires, you know, all of that.
Snowing in
So
Saudi Arabia for the first time in who knows how fucking, like it's never, there are parts of Saudi Arabia it's snowing in. It's a fucking desert, folks.
yeah,
It's never
crazy.
snowed there before and it's snowing in Saudi Arabia. What are we
Exactly.
doing?
Well, we've witnessed frost in countries that have never had frost in Central America ever, right? So, that stuff is real, but we can't keep like doing sort of perpetrating uh, a way of doing business that is extractive in one part of the world where we can't see it and not know that it doesn't impact us. It does impact us, right? So that is how that we are interdependent. If you clear cut and burn and all that, it definitely impacts you. The atmosphere doesn't stop at our borders. I said it before. And neither does the human need to survive. It doesn't stop at our borders either. And we're feeling it. This isn't even going to be the worst of it. This is just the beginning of the beginning. And so, I think getting back to the point that we can, through coffee, explain the interdependency of the world. So it's not about feeling sorry for a farmer. It's not, about making you feel shameful about what you are up to or not up to, or that you're not taking the time to care or anything like that. But it is about going ahead and choosing and aligning yourselves, because after all, your dollar is one vote. And every time you spend a dollar in one place versus another, it's a version of a vote. So if I think the consumer has one obligation, it's to have a little give a shittedness where they're giving their dollars to.
I love that.
And if they could do that and support those that do share their values on their behalf, I think that some real change can be created. But the consumer needs to first understand that coffee doesn't come from a roaster, and there are consequences to farming coffee in way A over way B. And we can give them that information, and we can give them the capacity to make a choice.
So I just want to say, because you'd said
please.
people are going to want to dig down on Biggby, and that's great. If you go to biggby.com, you will learn a lot about the franchise company and the cafes and what's on special this week. And you might find a few coupons. But if you want to see what we're up to, you need to go to our website, which is onebiggislandinspace.com, and Bigg has 2 G's in it. And there you will see kind of a good overview of what we've been doing since 2018. Our blog is there. We have links to a new docuseries we're doing called Field Notes. I think we might have shared a couple of those with you.
It's excellent. I was going to tell everyone, go to the YouTube channel. Like, I saw the one that you had sent me, Bob, on LinkedIn. And I was like, immediately, you have to come on. These guys have to come on the podcast immediately. Right. First of all, it's not bullshit. Like, I don't feel like I'm being sold anything or tricked anything. It feels like you're telling me a story.
We are.
We are.
We
like
are
a
truly,
genuine
because,
story.
The issue with creating commodifying a marketplace is you commodify the people behind it, right? So they all evaporate. And what Field Notes does is rehumanize the people that are behind this product. And by the way, those people are just like us, with the same wants, needs, desires as us, and it doesn't demonize them. And so it does. We've talked about hope a couple times here. Watching those definitely gives you hope, and those are people that are creating change in their community. And what we're doing, and this is what we're asking the consumer to do. So what we're doing is simply giving our marketplace to the people that are doing the right things out there. And that's the thing that we want to teach the consumer, is to give their marketplace, their dollars, their hard-earned dollars, to the people that they share their values with.
And I definitely think that the consumer is becoming aware. Like, it's not just us that is feeling that the planet's warming up. Like the the consumer is starting to realize that they have to be more conscious, particularly with the cost of living crisis.
Yep.
If they're going to spend $8, $9, $10, $12 on a coffee, they want to know that it's not doing any harm. I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but young people in France don't buy coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they don't buy coffee is because they know that the footprint of coffee is horrendous and it contributes significantly to climate change. So recently, a friend of mine, Angel Barrera from Belco, came on the podcast. Belco is based in France, and they this year have been shipping coffee via sailboat.
Awesome.
I think I should put you guys in contact.
Yeah.
Because they have done, I think, 20 ton as a test run, and they've moved it from Colombia to North America. They've gone, and Felipe from FAF has done that from Brazil to, I'm not sure where it went, but the fact that there are solutions, and this is what I love about humans, is that the same innovative humans that can see the problems that are real are not waiting for other people to solve those problems.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's what's exciting to me about the next 5 years, is that I think that as the people who have been doing the fuckery start to dissolve and fall down, as this earthquake that's hitting our industry happens, what we are going to get is an opportunity, if we support the right people, to let the solutions thrive.
Right.
Which is very exciting. You'll start to see, like, it's not that Biggby needs, like, you guys are already found your momentum and you're doing it.
Correct.
We need people to be inspired by what's happening with Biggby and try and emulate it.
Correct.
Even a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Take a piece of it and cultivate the idea of how it inspires you.
Totally. I mean, like I said, we're capitalists. And what is the point of differentiation between Biggby Coffee, Starbucks, Seven Brew, and scooters? Fuck if I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Seriously.
Yeah.
Now, I love what you said, your advice to somebody who wants to own and operate a business, and that is to find a problem and solve it, right? That's the thing that moves our human condition forward, upwards, and to the right? And that's what we're up to. And, for our baristas, for our owner-operators, for the area representatives, for people in our home office, being up to this is really interesting, right? Being up to making another $1 for the shareholders of this company.
No, that's boring.
Who gives a shit?
We're not solving anything.
No, nothing, right? We're just lining somebody else's pockets, right? When it comes down to it. And you can add a bunch of culture on top of that and make it sound, fun and loving,
Freudian.
And so on and so forth. Like, totally Freudian. Yes. But when you're working for a company that's up to something like this,
it
makes a difference. I mean,
you get excited to go to work.
We've been able to hire people in our leadership team that don't belong at Biggby Coffee. They belong at a much bigger, much more sophisticated organization.
Wow.
Why are they choosing to come to us? Because of what we're up to.
Well, also
people would rather show up and know that they're going to make a difference somewhere, somehow in their life. On your tombstone, it doesn't go, he made a lot of money.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
And they can put their head on a pillow at night knowing that they're contributing to a market in a positive way. Like, if you want to keep it, I don't want people to think that we're, again, I know we've said it in this series, but we're not being alternative here. 20 years ago, what we're talking about would have been considered alternative. This is the only option that is left for us folks.
That's right.
And it should be, if viewed as an exciting opportunity, the next 5 years is fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So, Michelle and I give this way too much time, way too much attention, way too much time away from home. And we couldn't be happier with our lives.
I love that.
We couldn't be happier. Like everything else just sounds so damn boring and useless.
Yeah. And I believe you. Like I've spent not a lot of time with you, like maybe total 10 hours. And that's, folks, that's over only three conversations.
Yeah. But,
Right. We've had like maybe 3 or 2 conversations. I'm not sure. But like I believe how much you enjoy your life. I believe how excited you are to get up and do what you do, as I'm sure exhausting as it is.
right.
It's really, really inspiring. And I genuinely believe that you guys are going to have a great 5 years. I can't say that about like most of the people that I know at the moment, not the people who have been preparing people like the Fath Coffees of the world and the Belcos and, Stitch Coffees and those kinds of people. They're not worried.
Yeah.
But the majority of people are worried.
Yeah.
So if you had to make, each of you, if you had to make one prediction over the next 5 years, what would it be about the coffee industry?
I can go first.
You go first.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a cleansing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are up to a bunch of bullshit, and it's just bullshit, and the bullshit's going to go, and, I've been doing this since 1995. I've been through every coffee wave that ever existed. And we have just always steadily plowed on with our values and our beliefs. People come and go, but there's a lot of horse shit out there, and that horse shit is going to get flushed down the drain.
Amen to that. Michelle, what do you predict for the next 5 years?
So I do not have the industry background that my husband does, but I do believe that in the next 5 years that things like biochar and regenerative ag are going to become not sort of the flavor of the month, but are going to become the way producers find to move forward and survive. And we're going to do whatever we can to help spread that word among producers and spread access through things like your fabulous education series that you have on regenerative ag. I'm very excited about being able to get some of our partners and the small producers in these really remote communities access to that. But I think that's going to become the wave of the future. In the last 20 years, we were just in Guatemala and we were talking to a coffee farmer that 20 years ago, you could drink from the river. You can no longer drink from the river. And part of that has been a contribution by agriculture, right? People releasing their honey water straight into rivers, all kinds of things. And they are really heavily engaged in water projects to help remediate all of that. I think we're going to see more remediation happening in coffee country because the way coffee has been done over the last 20 years has really degraded the environment, and that's about to shift.
So exciting. Like the fact that we will see that happen in the next 5 years means that we have a shot at saving this industry as an entire collective. It's not just any one business or any one podcast or anything like that. It needs all of us together. I am deeply honored that you guys came on the podcast and spent all of this time. I know how busy it is to do what you guys are doing. Before we wrap up, I want to say the sincerest of sincere thank you to the audience of this podcast. It is much easier to go and watch a Netflix series or go and watch something completely boring or listen to something that's much more entertaining than the stuff that we talk about on this podcast. And yet, this has been Map It Forward's best year yet. And this has been one of those years where people are reaching out and saying, please continue to do more of this. Please bring more people on that are talking the truth. In an industry where we can't even get the associations that run this fucking industry to tell the truth. And so I have more hope than I've ever had about this industry because of this audience. And so I hope that you take a lot of inspiration from the people that we bring on this podcast. It is there's a lot of research that goes into assessing people's credibility. And basically, we want to make sure that they're not talking shit because we want to protect you from the shit talkers of the industry. And there's far too fucking many of them. So of the 50 series that we do every year, we want to make sure that the people that you get to listen to are the people that you should be trying to seek out and have real life conversations with and be inspired by, like Michelle and Bob. And so I am deeply humbled by the fact that so many people in the industry listen to this podcast, and I'm grateful for you. I need a rest though, because it's fucking exhausting to do this podcast. As much as a privilege as it is an exhausting endeavor, but one that I am very, very happy to be doing. So we will see you back in 2025. For the next 3 weeks or so, there will be encore series that will be all focused around regenerative agriculture. So I've picked the series that I think that you need to listen to again. It is with Angela Barrero. It is with Felipe Croce. It is with Murilo Bettarello. The three of them are the professors from our regenerative ag workshops. And we want to prepare you for a 2025 that is going to be, at best, tumultuous. It is a year to not expect anything. And I hope that you continue to draw a lot of inspiration from the people that we bring on the podcast next year. Go to our website, check out our Patreon, check out our workshops, share these podcasts with everyone and help us continue to grow what we're doing. With that said, Happy New Year, everybody. Happy holidays. And Michelle and Bob, would you do me the great honor of signing off the podcast for the last time for this year?
For sure.
Sure. Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day and a happy new year. Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.